you look at the major measurements for churches these days, they still are effective. They're good measurements. Baptisms or conversions, depending upon your church background. Budget, that's still a major measurement. Attendance, obviously so. But are there some other things that may be important, especially in this post-quarantine, post-COVID world? I think so. We're going to be talking to Kevin Ezell, the president of North American Mission Board, and we're going to be talking to Kevin about other church health measurements we can look at in this new era. Kevin, first of all, welcome. It seems like forever since we've recorded.
Oh, great to see you. Always great to see you.
We're recording this in almost mid-August. You took vacation in July?
We're redneck. We just took, we go to the lake occasionally. So, it's not.
What's wrong with the lake?
No, it's not. But I just kind of preface, everybody laughs at it. It's just what we do. I travel so much. It's just nice not to do anything,
That's true. What state is the lake in? Is it in Georgia?
Yeah. We don't go too far. Yeah. So
do you
got
have
grandkids? We tube everybody, and so it's fun.
And is it near Nick Saban's place?
No. Yeah. No, probably not near that. Yeah.
What lake is he? Harwell?
Yeah. No. I forgot. He's in he's got a pretty nice spread though, I hear.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I know it's just a segue for you to be able to talk about Alabama, and I'm not biting on it, just so you know. So.
Hey, I went to the mountains for 3 days with Art Rayner's family. Art is a huge UK fan. I mean,
yeah.
He's got 2 degrees. He's got 2 degrees from there. He was homecoming king at University of Kentucky.
Man, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I was there when he was announced. I mean, you ought to hear it. I'm recording it, and they have the 3 finalists out there for Homecoming Queen, 3 finalists for Homecoming King on center at 50-yard line, halftime of the football game, and we're waiting for the announcement. And you hear, and this year's University of Kentucky Wildcat Homecoming King is, and there's this pause, and then you hear Art Rayner. And I went back and listened to it, and it was amazing to hear the screaming and the yelling. That was me. You should have heard Nellie Jo. I mean, she was doing it as well. That's a long time ago. I mean, I am so old, I can recall when my son was in college, and it's now a long time ago.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But he's a big UK fan, so I've paid a lot of dollars to the University of Kentucky over the years.
Fun memories.
And we were in the mountains. I know I'm traversing. We were in the mountains in North Carolina. I was with his 3 sons and he and his wife. And he made me, I think, he encouraged me to watch a documentary on Kentucky's quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't
he's
remember.
Good.
I hear he's good. I hear he could be top 5 draft pick.
Right. Well, you're exactly right. What's funny is like some of the things we're going to talk about in measuring about unity and different things in the church.
You notice how you're trying to get me back on track? It's really amazing.
No, I was just saying, depending on where you pastor, those things actually are a piece of that. And whether it's politics or sports or whatever, those things can. So, I was just trying to edge us back. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to get us back on track. You know what I remember about your quarterback more than anything?
What's that?
He eats bananas whole with the peel.
Oh, there you go.
Uh-huh. They showed pictures of him. He does not peel off the peeling. He just eats the banana.
Well, there you go.
I thought that would be really.
That is different.
It is different, but he must be.
Boy, yeah. That's different. I hadn't heard. I got to watch the documentary.
It's actually a pretty fascinating documentary. It's only about 30 minutes long, so I looked at it. Okay, how do you measure church health post-quarantine? Well, I guess one thing that we can say is your church is unified. That's one good thing about the church. If you're not having a lot of divisiveness, fights, conflict, you'll never be without it. But if you're not having a lot of it, you're pretty good health these days.
Yeah. The hard part is knowing exactly which vein do you take that test out of? I mean, how do you know if they're really unified or not. Typically, people are. It's evident, but yeah, I've been surprised the amount of churches that dismiss their pastors, and the pastor just seems like he's completely unaware that that was an issue. There wasn't a sense of unity, but
Well, hey, expand on that just a minute, Kevin. Is there a common issue why they were dismissed, or is it all over the board?
I guess what I'm saying, I'm surprised about a guy to say it came out of nowhere. I had just no idea. We had a guy here recently. His church sent him away on a month sabbatical. Came back and they dismissed him. So the first thing I learned in this is, if your church out of the blue sends you on a sabbatical, don't go. All right, stay in town. But I'm just saying, I don't know how you can be that disconnected from like the temperature. And that's what I love about a church, because you get a sense of the temperature of, and I like to know who some of the hardest people were to get along with in the church, because I want to get their temperature and then work my way back up to the good. But, I'm not sure. I didn't, do any survey or anything, but I always feel like I had a sense because of the Cracker Barrel equation, you get a good sense. It all goes back to Cracker.
Well, see, that's the thing about it. You can do church unity measurements at Cracker Barrel. You can talk to folks and find out what's going on.
And if a guy says, "Well, I can't get my people to meet me for breakfast," well, there's your problem. So
there may be a church unity problem if they don't come for free breakfast.
No, I would just encourage pastors. You've got to use, and you want to think the best, but you've got to use some discernment and wise discretion. And you don't have to pull people constantly, be insecure and all, but really promote a sense of unity. And it's really not hard if you just don't make everything about you. It's a lot easier to do that.
That's a good word right there in of itself. A second measurement, I don't know how many churches actually tabulate this, but most churches are small enough where they can see it, and it's the number of guests that come. That's an indication that your church has some type of reputation, probably good, that's drawing guests in. So that would be a sign of health. Yeah,
and I always took as an affirmation when our people would want to bring their families, and when they're bringing their family and friends, they want to show them their church. And we measured first time guests, but we measured multiple like second time, third time, because for somebody to come once is one thing, but if they come a second time, we rank them higher as a prospect, because we would make sure that they were focused on to try to bring in. That makes sense.
Well, as you know, son Jess Rayner planted a church about 6 years ago, and they initially were not getting the names of the guests, and he just went to something that I know it's not unique to him, but they started giving $5 to the local food and clothing ministry for every card that was turned in by guests or members. So if a member put a prayer request and put it in there, they put it in a box as they leave. They don't have offering plates anymore. That would be $5 given to the local food and clothing ministry. And the guest would see the members filling them out, and so they fill them out. So they know they're doing something altruistically, and they know that others are doing it as well. And so that really has helped identify the number of guests that are coming in, because it's almost everybody fills out a card now.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. But yeah, that's definitely for sure a sign of health when you're unified and you're having a continual amount of guests coming in.
Resources allocated. We could call it outward focus. We could call it Great Commission. We could call it evangelism. One of the challenges that is bothering me about churches today is how little emphasis is being put on evangelism, even though there are a vast amount of resources that are out there to put emphasis on evangelism. Any clue? Well, first of all, you can agree or disagree, obviously, but any clue as to what's going on there, Kevin?
Absolutely. We have far more resources than people would ever use. And if somebody uses resources as an excuse, it's just an excuse. I mean, um, we've said it before. People are far more interested in hearing the gospel than people are in sharing the gospel. And
That's the good
I
stuff.
wish we could crack the code. If we could just got pastors to be aggressive in sharing the gospel. But you're right, though, on resources. You can look at somebody's budget real quick and see what they value the most. And, I talked to a pastor the other day, and again, singing Christmas Tree, their Christmas cantata was still a pretty major part of their budget, which I'm not condemning those. I'm just saying, there's not that many revivals come out of a Christmas cantata, although I know there's evangelistic opportunities, that type of thing. But you can tell where your values are by how you budget.
Again, I'm traversing off of our main path here, but you ever seen the video of the Christmas special where I can't remember the church, where they had a camel in the church, and the camel went
I think that wasn't that like that church. It's in West Palm
somewhere in South Florida, and the camel actually falls over on the people.
Yeah, the pastor just gotten there. I think they had drugged the camel to settle him down, and they just maybe pushed the syringe in a little too far.
Well, I got to say, as I recall, they got a lot of recognition. The pastor was on a lot of news shows, and people knew where that church was.
Funny video. It's funny because nobody got hurt.
And that's true. Nobody got hurt.
But that's a case though, like where a church, you can spend incredible amount of money on things. I've always encouraged churches that the best evangelism money you're going to spend is focusing on students, because the majority of people come to faith before the age 23, to be very generous. And if you focus on student evangelism, that's where you're going to get the biggest, return on investment when it comes to evangelism.
Anytime I go speak and I ask that question, all of you who became a Christian at age 20 or younger, which is the way I ask it, raise your hand. It's usually 80, 90%.
Oh, yeah. No, easy. And that's why collegiate evangelism, the colleges and the high school, that's what we're primarily focusing on. We've really ramped it up at the North American Mission Board and focused on student evangelism.
Well, I said in Matthew 9, where Jesus said, look, we got plenty in the harvest field. We need to pray that the Lord will send workers into the harvest field. Well, that's where we are right now, and particularly in these young adults and older teenagers, highly receptive field.
Right. And actually they're very bold witnesses. Once you lead them to Christ, they're very aggressive and bold. And we're seeing tremendous movement in the collegiate church planning, and just because of the boldness of the students. So
I was recording a podcast with your comrade Mark Clifton for the same Revitalize and Replant, and I told the story of I teach a community group. It's really a Sunday school class, because we meet right before the first worship service, and then we meet in the church building. It feels very much like Sunday school, but it's still a community group because the rest of them meet in homes and otherwise. And so I teach a community group. I've elected not to accept weekend engagement, so I'm there almost every Sunday, and I'm teaching a cross-generational group. I'm the oldest one, but we just had someone join our group a few weeks ago who's 19 years old, and she came to the church, just showed up, and Jess had the opportunity the pastor, my son, had the opportunity to share the gospel with her. She became a follower of Christ, and she decided to come to my class, which is one of the older ones. I mean, we may have some 40-somethings in our class, but I'm the old 60-something. We got a lot of 50-somethings, and she came in, and I got to tell you, it is amazing to see how a new Christian, properly equipped, becomes a person on fire with the gospel. And that's what's happened to her.
Right. It's fun to watch.
She comes in with stories almost every Sunday, and she'll talk about people that she's spoken to, and it's really incredible. I mean, you're right. That is a great age to be reaching people with the gospel. So we're asking the question, how do you measure church health? particularly in this post-quarantine era. Church unity, and Kevin has talked about some of the issues related to that make me chuckle. Number of guests who come in, particularly, yeah, you cannot have a second-time guest unless they're first-time guests, but the second-time guests are really interested in becoming part of the church. Resources allocated to outward focus or evangelism. Fourth, group attendance. Now, groups go by so many different names. In this podcast, I've already mentioned Sunday school and community groups, and there's life groups, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But groups. Question number one for you, Kevin. Do you think we are emphasizing groups well enough? And number two, how important are groups in the life and health of a church?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anecdotally, it seems everybody needs a sense of community, even Thom Rainer. And so, yes, there's never going to, whatever we call them, it's never going to go away. People need that and desire that, and they are coming back, especially among younger adults. Now, seniors, they need it, perhaps in a different way, but the young adults for sure. And I'm saying pre-children, early children, teenage children, because everybody's looking for help navigating things, and but I see it come back. I don't know how that results in resources and how, but I just know as far as how they get together. They get together for the fellowship and the connectivity. I don't know how much content they go over is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it makes sense. And a lot of it depends upon the leader and the pastor, what he's emphasizing and what
intentionality.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Just in intentionality. One of the stats is a rather old stat. It's our own research, but it's so old. It's more than a decade old that I would have to go back to affirm its validity today. But when we did it, we found that someone who was in a group was 5 times more likely to still be with the church 5 years later than someone who was in worship only. That's an old stat, but it's probably similar today.
Yeah, no, I would think that'd be correct, easily.
Number of ministry volunteers. Do we measure them? Should we measure them? How important are they? Those are 3 questions, and you can tackle it any direction you want to on that.
And I think the same thing went with number 4. When you get somebody that's actually engaged and volunteer and they're serving in some capacity, I always think if you get people serving others, they're going to be there more long term. They're going to take a sense of ownership. Instead of a church becomes their church. They take a more sense of pride in everything. So, I think the number of ministry volunteers, it says a lot of different things. One, if the staff or the pastor's trying to do everything, or if you take yourself out of it, could your church function? And if you're a pastor, you should be able to say it could. The strongest churches can. And not to say that somebody can preach as good or whatever, you get that idea, but they can function and lead on their own. And it's a part of and hopefully you surround yourself with people with higher capacity of leadership than you have.
Sure. For sure. Well, this particular conversation I had with the pastor, I'd love to get your thoughts on it. It's been several weeks, but he told me about in his church, they have a membership class that you must go through. It's not a long one, but you still must go through the membership class. But then before they let you come into the church, they ask you to serve for 3 weeks in the greeter ministry. So you go directly from the membership class for the next 3 weeks in the greeter or hospitality or welcome ministry, whatever that would be, because they say they're able to get them connected. They begin to see the church from a different perspective, and they become outward focused because their whole purpose is to help other people. I don't know if you've heard that, but it sounds pretty cool to me.
That's a great idea. Now, we had something similar on an intern program with all of our interns, because we were close to a seminary. All of our interns, we had them work on the maintenance staff. And so they either cut the grass. We did that for at least a month just to see if they were servants or not. And we had some guys like, look, I'm just not going to do that. I'm here to do ministry.
Wow.
Okay, well, catch you later. So, but we wanted to see if they had the humility enough to serve. So, no, you're exactly right. If you can get them engaged, man, you're going to be much healthier, and they're going to not only have more ownership. We found that the ones who are engaged and are serving are also the ones who are giving.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, because they feel like they're a part of something. They are invested in ministry, so they'll invest in their financial resources. I tell you something happened at my church, where Church of Spring Hill, where Jess is pastor. I'm on the welcome ministry, but they haven't scheduled me for several months. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. That's just strategic scheduling is what that is.
So I went to I asked the head of the ministry, have I been fired? No, not yet. That's pretty much what they said. Oh my goodness. Well, Kevin, these are some of the things that you can look at to measure health. Anything that you want to add to it in terms of maybe what we didn't cover: church unity, number of guests, resources to evangelism, group attendance, number of ministry volunteers. Anything else that you would add to measuring for health?
No, I think that's what the internal things. What I would encourage is to find, I always call it a mole, but I would try to once a quarter, I'd get somebody to visit our church. If I had a pastor taking a day off, and hey, can you just give me a good, honest, a straight up honest on what the feel is? Because you get so used to it, you think people are welcome. It's just like when you visit a church. I used to think people were good. They were good at doing greeting people. We're not good at welcoming people. And so, to see what the church health, I want to see what the visitor, what is the health? Why would people want to visit and come back and just get some honest appraisal? It's hard to, self-analyze things, but to get a perspective of somebody who knows what you're looking for. We do now that with our church plans. We just have people spot check different ones to see, how they're doing and give them feedback. It's kind of like undercover shopper or whatever you want to call it.
I like that. Hey, Amy, do we still have that? Can we make available that secret guest document that is a downloadable that pastors can give to a guest and ask them to complete it after they come to the church? It tells them what to look for and check off things. It's a real simple form that we use. That's a great idea. Well, we've been talking to Kevin Ezell. We've been talking about church health other than the usual, which would be attendance and finances and conversions or baptisms. And we've been looking at 5 others, but there are a host of others. And if you add the 6th one about the secret guests that Kevin mentioned, that would be those. Those are some things that you can be looking at as you are trying to assess honestly the health of your church. And never forget this. In the words of Kevin Ezell, they come to Cracker Barrel and listen to what they have to say. The greatest words of wisdom on Revitalize and Replant. Thank you for being a Revitalize and Replant. Make sure that you subscribe to YouTube or give us a rating and review at your favorite podcasting app. Come back, and we're always thankful to the North American Mission Board for all they do to make this podcast a reality and as a ministry for you. We'll see you in the next episode.